This is Jonathan Geller at D. Geller & Son Jewelers, Atlanta's engagement ring and wedding band destination since 1939. Why? Hand-picked diamonds that just shine brighter at a value that can't be beat. An unbelievable selection of engagement rings and wedding bands. And because we've been jewelers for generations, we can bring your dream ring to life with full custom abilities. So when it's time for the next chapter, come see Atlanta's most trusted jeweler since 1939, D. Geller & Son.
And right now at D. Geller & Son, get 0% APR financing for 5 years.
This is an Extra 106.3 podcast. To hear more live and local content like this, tune into 106.3 FM or download the Extra 106.3 app. Extra 106.3 and a Second Chance Bail Bonds are here to back your blue. Back Your Blue highlights special initiatives, criminal justice programs, and community events aimed at keeping our communities safer. Join a Second Chance Bail Bond CEO Daniel Matalon and host Tug Coward to learn some good news about and from the law enforcement and justice communities. Now it's time to Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra 106.3 app.
Welcome to another episode of Back Your Blue with Daniel Matalon. He is the CEO of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and a Second Chance Monitoring. My name is Tug Cowart from the Morning Extra here on Extra 106.3. Our guest today is Greg McNiff. He is the operational leader for the Atlanta Police Foundation. What's up, man? How are you today?
I'm doing well. Happy to be here. Thank you for the invite.
So glad that you are here. And have you all worked together before, Daniel?
We met recently. It started through a conversation with Joshua Chavez, who's with the Atlanta Police Foundation, and then led into me meeting the team. But I want to just commend Greg on the Atlanta Police Foundation. I'm super impressed, super energized. I want to. We as a Second Chance, all branches of a Second Chance are going to be doing some sponsorship with the Atlanta Police Foundation. It's a great. They're doing great things over there. So,
what is it that you've seen that because I mean that I don't think I've ever heard you give such a glowing recommendation or endorsement.
I went back to my team immediately, and I was like, "Look, this is something I want to align with. I believe some of our core values are pretty similar, but I think one of the big thing was we toured the At Promise centers, which they're building around the city of Atlanta, which are just incredible for the kids, the youth, just direction, just life in general, life skills. I mean, all kinds of options that they have within that. You have the training center that's being built, and then also a lot of the events that they put on, which are just top-notch fundraising efforts, putting money back into the community, public safety. I mean, I could go on and on and on, but it really aligns with some of the stuff that we're trying to do. So we'd love to park some of our dollars and time, but mostly funds into what the Atlanta Police Foundation is doing. So we're discussing that now on our side internally, and of kind of what the commitment was, and start somewhere and build from there. So.
Goodness gracious. Greg, I got to tell you, man, that's an endorsement like I've never heard on the show before.
Well, we'll take it. We'll take all the support we can get, actually. I mean, it's tough finding support out there for police right now, which is, is kind of a kick in the pants to me. I grew up in the law enforcement industry. My father was a firefighter. Much of my family is still in law enforcement or just recently got out. So to have seen the change in the support for law enforcement over the last decade or so is kind of disappointing, obviously.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So we'll go through. You're the primary operational leader within the Atlanta Police Foundation. Been an expert in law enforcement and security for more than 25 years. After more than a decade of police work, you entered the private security industry in 2009 and served in guarding, hospitality, and corporate sectors. Joined the Atlanta Police Foundation in 2020 after managing global and domestic security for Boston Consulting Group and WeWork. What does that look like?
Well, BCG is a great company, and they're a premier, managerial consultancy. Offices all over the globe. I think at the time they had 125 offices in 90 countries. It would have taken what WeWork was at the time to get me to leave ABCG for another corporate role. And this was right before the fall of WeWork, and their trajectory was to the moon. and it was tantalizing at the time. I took over the Southeast operations. They were putting out and opening a new office about once a month at the time. So it was a massive growth spurt right there. And then about 6 months later, it kind of we know what the history of what we were wound up being. But it was a great 6-month ride.
Yeah, it sounds like it. You graduated from Colgate University, Masters in Risk Management and Security Certified Protection Professional, a CPP. Did you know you wanted to do this kind of work your whole life?
Yeah, and in terms of law enforcement, I did. I mean, my dad was, a fireman, professional fireman. He built homes on the side, and everyone that came by the house was either a fireman or a police officer at the time. So my brother, I'm the middle of two siblings. My brother went into law enforcement. I was 2 years behind. I got into law enforcement. My sister followed up and became a state trooper too. So it was just kind of the family business.
Where are you from originally?
New Jersey, northern
New Jersey. I was going to say that ain't a southern accent. No. I can tell.
Yep. I've worked hard to wash the New Jersey out of my accent, but it'll pop up once in a while.
Y'all talk funny up there.
Oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do.
That's what I've been facing my whole life, Daniel. So you talk funny. You know what I mean? Funny. It's always me. So I always try to give it back a little bit. Like, hang on, it ain't me that talks funny. It's y'all that talk funny the whole time. But that's the thing. Atlanta Police Foundation is an independent nonprofit organization that provides strategic planning, public safety infrastructure investment, innovation technology, career-long law enforcement training, and a variety of community programs designed to assist the Atlanta Police Department in its mission to make Atlanta a safer city. How did you end up here in Georgia specifically?
Well, Georgia, so I was leaving law enforcement. I was with the Fairfax County Police Department as a patrol sergeant up there. Never thought I would ever want to leave law
Fairfax,
enforcement.
Virginia?
Northern Virginia, right outside of D.C.
I was stationed in Norfolk, so I got a general idea of where everything is up there.
Yeah, and that was my first introduction to the South after having graduated from Colgate in upstate New York. And,
and
I got a taste of the South there, and then just...
In Virginia, Northern Virginia, you ain't getting no taste of the South. It's impossible. Southwest Virginia, maybe.
For a New Jersey guy, it was as deep South as I could have imagined.
I married a girl from Albany, New York, so I know.
Okay. And so I never anticipated getting out of actual law enforcement. Loved being on the street, loved being a police officer. And I got faced with the opportunity, or not the opportunity, the reality of my uncle, my great uncle. My father passed away. The only person left on my dad's side was this great uncle, who was a former police officer himself in NYPD. And he got to the point where he was living by himself in central Manhattan and needed someone to provide full-time care for him. He was 92 years old at the time, and it was a matter of taking him in. There was no one really left on my dad's side of the family to take him in. I was the only person positioned to do that when you looked at my brother's situation, my sister's situation, and we could not do that in Northern Virginia given the schedule that I was working and the housing that we had set up at the time. So we had to move him due to his kind of severe dementia at the time into something that looked like Manhattan. And so we could not afford moving north, especially given my wife's, we'd be kind of reducing to one salary for a period of time anyway. So it was too expensive to go north. D.C. to move into the district was too expensive. And then we just said, all right, what's south? And it was Charlotte or Atlanta that we could kind of replicate the lifestyle that he was accustomed to in Manhattan. We settled on, I had never visited Atlanta before. Got off the MARTA, went to Midtown and said, yeah, this will work. This is
I can
great.
tell you're not from Atlanta because you said you rode MARTA. Ain't nobody in Atlanta knows that.
That's true. And so we kind of made a drastic familial change right there and moved him. He was on 14th Street, I was on 12, and he had great 4 years left here. And then once he passed away and got to the great age of 96, it was time to get back into work. And so from that transition, about 11 years in law enforcement, is to say what is next, and security was obviously kind of that next step. I didn't want to go back to another police academy, and it was BCG and a local security company at the time called Secure America kind of got me started, and then I transitioned over to WeWork. And then once the writing was on the wall with WeWork, I had to get out, and that's when I was introduced through a friend of mine who works for the city of Atlanta to say, hey, I hear there's an opportunity with the Police Foundation. And I said, what the heck is the Police Foundation?
That's right. Yeah.
Had to do some research.
I bet there's a lot of people right now that are asking that same question.
Yeah. There are people on the APD that ask, what is the Police Foundation?
Right.
So I had to do some quick research, go into the interview acting like I knew what I was talking about.
Hit the Google.com.
Yeah, exactly.
We've all been there.
And Dave Wilkinson, the CEO, he's still the CEO. He's been almost 20 years there now, I believe, hired me to basically start doing private security consulting, which had become kind of my expertise after having gotten out of law enforcement. The only problem is we were doing that at the start of COVID, and it was here I am going to sell access control.
Oh no,
security cameras to companies that wanted to kind of make their office
selling anything.
Selling anything, right? And so that kind of put a pin in that, if you will. A year and a half kind of flew by through the whole COVID experience, and then we started recognizing, okay, it's time to emerge from COVID. What can we start focusing on? And we kind of threw our weight back into our programs, and allowed me to kind of shift my focus a little bit with inside the foundation.
So what was it? How long have you been dealing with the foundation in general?
So actually Atlanta Police Foundation reached out to me actually through Fulton County government on a project on the reoffender program project that they were working on, which I was already providing services to Fulton County government countywide for their program. And so they reached out to me and they said they had already kind of vetted me, which was interesting. And then, just having the conversation and realizing that it was a good fit, and we're in the midst of trying to put something together now on a program within the Atlanta Police Foundation.
Okay, and you may have said this, Greg, but you've been at the foundation for how long now?
Almost 5 years.
5 years. Yep. Okay. Has there been anything that you're like, man, I didn't see this one coming? Like the things that y'all deal with that maybe even the public don't know about?
Well, we've been around since we were legislatively created, or at least the city council passed an ordinance back, or I guess legislation in 2001 to say let's create the planning and create a foundation. The foundation kind of was born in 2003. So we've been around, a good period of time now. The programs have been around a long time. We've grown them over probably the last 5 years. They've each independently grown, especially the Youth Center program, the At Promise Center. But by far, the thing that you said, wow, I didn't see that coming, was the backlash and the effort to create this police academy, the Public Safety Training Center. So that one, I think, blindsided all of us on the public safety side, and to include
especially because communities were asking for something like that.
Yes, and the police department's been asking for it for 30 years, and the fire department's been asking for it for 30 years. Both of them were basically relegated to a abandoned school on both agency side, and they've been dealing with that for almost 30 years. So imagine trying to train grown men and women to do police work and fire work in a elementary school.
An abandoned elementary school.
Abandoned elementary school, and it had gone that way for 30 years. And you can just imagine as those facilities degraded, so did the training, and it was just time to address that. And you would just think, this is a police academy, this is a fire academy. There's nothing new, there's nothing controversial here. We're just trying to build a building to make improvements in the training, and that blindsided everybody, I think.
Yeah, I'm wondering where some of that comes from, because I don't think it generates out of the city of Atlanta or the state of Georgia, and I won't ask you to speak to that because I know there's pending litigation. Tough for me to say, pending litigation, and you can address whatever you want to, or I understand if you can't, but we'll come back and talk about some of that. Sure. With the training center. The relationship with the police department, with APD, because I bet most people don't realize the Atlanta Police Foundation and the APD are different. They probably think they're probably one and the same, and that's not the case. So we'll get that all when we come back with our guest, Greg McNiff. He's the operational leader at the Atlanta Police Foundation, with our co-host, Daniel Matalon, CEO of A Second Chance Bail Bonds and A Second Chance Monitoring. My name is Tug Cowart on Extra 106.3.
This morning in the Atlanta airport, no one's missing a meal on Mac Wilburn's watch. With 11 restaurants to serve passengers, he's got dining for every destination. And it all started when Mac talked with First Horizon Bank about opening a franchise in the airport. Now it's open for business and cleared for takeoff. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Mac. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.
This is Jonathan Geller at D. Geller & Son Jewelers, Atlanta's engagement ring and wedding band destination since 1939. Why? Hand-picked diamonds that just shine brighter at a value that can't be beat. An unbelievable selection of engagement rings and wedding bands. And because we've been jewelers for generations, we can bring your dream ring to life with full custom abilities. So when it's time for the next chapter, come see Atlanta's most trusted jeweler since 1939, D. Geller & Son.
And right now at D. Geller & Son, get 0% APR financing for 5 years.
This is Back Your Blue, presented by A Second Chance Bail Bonds, live on Extra 106.3 FM and streaming for free anytime on the Extra 106.3 app.
Welcome back to Back Your Blue with Daniel Madelon of a Second Chance Bail Bonds and Second Chance Monitoring. Our guest, Greg McNiff, he's the operational leader at the Atlanta Police Foundation. We left off, we were talking about the Atlanta Training Center with a little bit. What's the relationship y'all have with the Atlanta Police? Because they're two different organizations. Maybe people kind of know that, but not really.
Yeah, and if you look at the legislation when it was written by City Council in 01, it basically acknowledges the fact that the Atlanta Police Department is underfunded, undertrained, and there was a desire to correct that. I mean, that's literally the founding legislation just says that, to address...
And what year was that?
01.
01.
Yep, to address deficiencies.
23 years.
Yeah, 23 years. So we've been around. So then it took 2 years to actually get the foundation stood up. It was headed by a board of business leaders at the time with some government personnel. Mayor Shirley Franklin and Chief Pennington worked together to ultimately create it. And then in 2003 is when Dave Wilkinson retired from the Secret Service, came out as a CEO, and really started growing the program. Now he had a great strategy, and I think ultimately still does. We don't want to just be a benevolent association for the police department. If they need extra hats or they need small equipment, we don't want to raise money to just let them go buy things and do that. Dave was very directed in terms of his mission and saying our fundamental mission is just to make the Atlanta a safest city, period. I mean, that's as simply stated as it can get. And there's a recognition that we can do this with the support of the business and philanthropic communities in addition as a supplemental source to the police department. They're going to go out and obviously put handcuffs on bad guys and do all the things that police officers do. But there's so much work that the philanthropic community, the business community, and this nonprofit community can partner up to do on their own to make the city safer. And that's what we do every day. We have core programs that ultimately focus on making the city safer. And then, yes, we'll certainly help the police department when they say, hey, we could use some help with this or we could use some help with that.
There you go, Daniel. I know that is why you care about it so much, is just lending the hand, being that conduit between the police department and the community. Yeah. I mean, that's why you're so connected in there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that's like what he said, what makes Atlanta Police Foundation different is what attracted me to them. In addition to, there was a need, right? There was a need in a program that they had, but for me, it was like, well, how can we do more, though? Like, I don't want to just be a need for you. I want to participate and work with you on kind of what you guys are doing, and it's a no-brainer. Atlanta Police Foundation's a no-brainer for me. So
let me ask you, Greg, is every big city have a police foundation? Is this unique to Atlanta?
No, we're the longest and standing in here in Georgia, certainly, and we're the largest in the country in terms of what we raise and our ability to kind of impact things. So we are, if you look at the law enforcement strategy or the policing strategy for the city of Atlanta, it is the police foundation, it is the mayor's office, and it is the police chief and the police department itself. But there's a equal partnership there in terms of guiding the strategy and bringing resources to the table to implement then that strategy. So, Dave works regularly with Mayor Dickens, works regularly with Chief Shearbaum to kind of say what needs to happen, what can be done better, and we want to make sure that whatever we're doing is transparent. We're making sure that we're holding the police department accountable, and we're holding the other partner agencies that are participating in the policing strategy accountable. And we do that through the repeat offender initiative, and that's what Daniel and the foundation are working with now. There's been a longstanding commission, that's focused on repeat offenders and recognizing that there's a relatively small group of folks out there that just continue to reoffend, continue to get themselves in trouble, and continue to cause problems for the citizens of Atlanta. Those are those repeat offenders that we're trying to mitigate here. And, on average, it's about 1,000 individuals. We identify those 1,000 individuals each year, and they're producing 25% to 30% of the crime that we're experiencing. This is serious felony crime. This is just, misdemeanor small stuff. And that's what we're trying to work with Daniel right now. And we think that ultimately the electronic monitoring these folks is the way to go. We're going to, test that and see where we go.
Do you think that's the fix, Daniel?
Yeah, I think it's a great solution. I think the technology, which I'm not going to tip my hat to because it's all still in the works, but is something that has not been done. I can tell you that in the United States, in this country, or really anywhere in the world that I'm aware of. It's awesome. That's all I can tell you. It's just really cool technology, and the way that it's going to get rolled out, and the way that their vision and their plan with it is awesome.
What is it about 1,000 people that I'm missing? Because I just feel as a guy that lives I live in the North Metro suburbs, so maybe I don't deal with it quite as much as everybody else, or whatever, but when I hear repeat offender over and over and over again, how do you get out of jail if you break the law that many times? I mean, at some point, do you not help? Are you not just locked up for good? I mean,
It's the $1 million question. And when we're talking here in Georgia, what repeat offender means, it is 3 felony convictions.
Okay.
Right? It's not just somebody that.
I guess that's important. Their definition
is.
of repeat offender is important, so that way everybody understands what that is.
Because I bet most people like me have no idea that that's what it was.
And that's where we're so these are the most serious felons out there. These are the people that just can't stop offending. So there are 3 felony convictions on your records. You might have 67 cycles, which would be an arrest cycle. You could have a lot more than that. We're finding folks with 90, 100 cycles, and somewhere in those
Meaning
100
they've been arrested that many
100
times.
times,
Okay.
right? So imagine those aren't just the only 100 crimes they've committed, right? Those are the 100 that they got caught for.
Yep.
And then 3 of those, at a minimum, were actual, got through the adjudication process, and you were convicted of 3. So this is anyone that is now in a 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th arrest cycle for a felony that we're trying to then interdict here. And those are where you see those 1,000 offenders are really the most problematic folks. And those are where we're trying to offer an opportunity too. The answer is not just lock them up, throw away the key. In some instances, it probably will have to be the case. Unfortunately, if this person or that person just doesn't want to change their ways. But we're thinking through a voluntary electronic monitoring opportunity to say, I just got arrested again, right, for a 4th, 5th, 6th, whatever. Let me out, but I'll do it, voluntarily on an ankle monitor or a wrist monitor or whatever it might be, to give me that kind of angel on my shoulder to say, heck, I'm not going to offend again because they're going to know where I was at the time of the offense. And we're hopeful that this is the solution to really addressing this 1,000 people who just don't seem to currently get it.
As a faithful man, like I try to be forgiving. I try to, I try to use Jesus as the example. But the human side of me says, goodness gracious, what in the world is going on? We have 1,000 people that are committing felony after felony after felony. Something is wrong, and something has to be done about it. And it doesn't seem like anybody's being held accountable. And I know you're saying they are, and I know, Daniel, you're working with these people and trying to put them on the right path. And God bless you for the work you're doing, because I don't know that I would have the patience to do it, y'all. I want to be better. And I'm telling you, I'm not.
Yeah, well, and it's frustrating. And that's the whole point of this commission. So the commission was founded, years ago, and there's the district attorney sits on there, the police chief, the Fulton County sheriff, the judges from the Fulton County Superior Court, the police foundation. So there's a lot of bodies, and there's well beyond those that I just mentioned. But there's a lot of folks that go into making sure that the system works appropriately, right? That the officers show up to court when they need to be there, right? So the case isn't dismissed for lack of witness, right? So that the appropriate recidivist paperwork is filed at the time within the court system, when the clerk's office, to make sure that they're charged appropriately. So there are lots of balls that can get dropped along the way to allow that person to get out again for that 5th, 6th, 7th, whatever it might be, felony. And we want to make sure that the entire process is shored up, and that there's if there are people or agencies dropping the ball along the way, that we're holding them accountable. There's a right way to do this and a wrong way to do this, and that's the point of the foundation's Repeat Offender Commission. We're very thankful that a lot of big agencies and impactful agencies around the city want to sit on that and be a part of this to solve this problem.
Yeah, do you mind going through that list of agencies again? You may have mentioned some of them, but I want people to get credit for the work they're doing and when they try to make things better.
Yeah, and we've got several judges from the Fulton County Superior Court. We've got the district attorney on there. We've got the U.S. State's U.S. attorney for the district, Northern District of Georgia here. We've got obviously the CEO of the Police Foundation. We've got the Fulton County Sheriff Labatt. We've got Chief Shearbaum on there. We've got representatives from the Buckhead Coalition, the Midtown Alliance, the Atlanta Downtown Improvement District. We've got the clerk's office. So, and I can go on. There's many other, laundry list. There's probably about, I'd say, 15 agencies or organizations represented on the commission itself. And then there's a lot of support partners that also attend these quarterly meetings. And we say, what is the problem? How do we fix it? How do we make sure that there's transparency and this system's working appropriately?
And that's kind of where you're involved.
And try getting all of those people to get along.
Oh, my God.
And they do, though. That's the thing. That's what's so impressive about it is that it's a machine that is a very well-oiled machine, starting at the top with the CEO, Dave Wilkinson, I don't need to say anything about him. He's just great.
Well, but you should, because I don't know that people listening now know Dave.
Well, just the what they've built, what he's built, his vision, what they've instilled in everybody is incredible. But I mean, just to hear that many agencies getting along, incredible. I mean, sometimes you can't even get people at agencies within the same county to get along with each other, much less adding 15. I mean, that's impressive in itself, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And then you see what they're achieving and it goes to show what they've achieved and what they continue to achieve is because of that camaraderie and that togetherness that they bring, and it's impressive.
It sounds it because I know, I mean, I'm guilty of watching the news just like everybody else. I try not to, but I do, and you see like people that get arrested and then they get turned loose the next day or within 24 hours. I mean, whether it's a protest on a college campus, and of course protest nonviolent when you're just using your God-given right, your American constitutionally protected right to protest, all for it. Even if I disagree with it, I'm all for it. But then there's the people that do things that are, breaking the law. And I feel like in big cities across the country, including Atlanta, I see people that are arrested and then not charged. And how does that work with the police foundation? Because they have to be frustrated by that too, no?
Well, yeah, definitely. And our constituents and supporters are frustrated by that. We shouldn't get to a point where we have this expectation because you live in a big urban city that you should be then exposed to crime, right? And I think too many cities just go, well, yeah, you live in the big city and that's what life in the city. Too bad, right? Get used to it. And every time you come out, your car window's broken into and this, that, and the other thing. And you shouldn't have to accept that. And we're not going to accept that here. And so for the foundation, we obviously convene this commission on a quarterly basis. We do a lot of work. Josh Chavez, as Daniel mentioned, leads that effort for us, and he has monthly meetings with this working group. So all of those agencies that are represented on the commission have folks on the working group. They meet monthly, solve the problems, make sure when we come back to that quarterly meeting that something is moved forward, the needle's moved, and the whole process is shored up better. And so ultimately, we're going to keep on pushing. We've gotten the recidivism rate for these folks down from about 30% 2 years ago, so to where 30% of the APD felony arrests every year were these folks.
Is that the repeat offenders?
Yeah, these are the repeat offenders. So we after 3 years' work, that was at 30% of the APD's monthly arrests or annual arrests. Now it's down to 26%, or was down to 26% the following year. And this year, as we just closed the books here on 2023, was down to 24%. So our goal would be obviously to get that as close to zero as possible. But we think there's a great chance to get that down to 10 to 15% with some additional aids like the electronic monitoring and just a better shored up system across the board.
Yeah, which is where you come in, Daniel, and monitoring.
Yeah, and I think it's bigger than just putting the monitor on, right? And I can attest to this because I've been around the bail industry for 20 years. We actually really work with these people, even on the monitoring side, being in communication with these people and giving them resources that they wouldn't normally have. And even if you're attached to the industry, the bail industry, all that stuff, you're not always really getting that type of treatment and attention. And we're just big believers in it. So I think when you add the device and then in conjunction with all the X factors that come around it, I think, it leads to success.
What are the resources that you're talking about? Because, they just seem so broad.
Well, look, people sometimes don't know where to go or who to call or what. It could be a simple problem that they have where it's like, hey, look, these are our resources of the people that we're attached to, whether it's different foundations, whether it's different, people doing work in the community, whatever the case is, people have needs, right? They don't know how to access
enough to eat,
mental health, whatever, women's shelters, kids, So we, over 20 years, have put together the best of the best list of that, of the people that we've worked with ourselves that we can attest to, and we pass those along to the people that we deal with. Even though you're in a bad situation, hey, my goal is not to see you again. And you would say, well, you're a bail bondsman, you make money off of people getting out of jail, right? So why would you want to lower the recidivism rate?
Yeah, right.
Well, because look, at some point, right? That's a fair question, but you have to believe. You have to be part of the solution. Period. The end.
Yeah, no, and I agree with that.
You have to be part of the solution.
And here's the thing, man. Crime has happened since before the Bible was written. Right. Crime has been going on forever.
Right.
There's never going to be a 100%. Nothing is perfect. So
it's just
you're always going to have work, but it would be nice to have a little less.
Well,
maybe you could take a vacation.
When you see the success stories. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, maybe not.
But the success stories that come out of it, and I know Atlanta Police Foundation has tons of them. They've given me examples of their own success stories. That's just powerful stuff, and it helps save other people in the community, that need that help or that extra push.
Greg McNiff is our guest on Back Your Blue, operational leader at the Atlanta Police Foundation. Going back to the training center a little bit, the pushback has been, like you said, just unimaginable. It seemingly started about 4 or 5 years ago when this big defund the police thing came around and has left communities in shambles. And you're quietly seeing municipalities who used to wave the defund the police banner now backing away from that and saying, oh, no, we were never involved in that. This is almost like a scarlet letter all of a sudden. That's a good thing. But I'm afraid that only happens now because there's pressure, because there's people pushing back and saying, no, we need our communities to be safe. We need well-trained police officers and firefighters and EMS folks that would train at the Atlanta Training Center. Why do you think there's been pushback on that?
Well, the pushback that's been here that we found locally is, like you said, has been external, right? The folks that have come in and acted as mercenaries and terrorists for this movement,
no question,
flew in from places where they wore out their welcome.
What is like 2 people from Georgia that were arrested in in the entirety of this thing?
Yeah, and I don't have the exact stats, but I think you're almost right.
Somewhere in that.
Yeah,
it could
very
give or
small,
take, whatever
very
it is.
Small. And so there were organizations that had money, right? There was a lot of money floating around with the Black Lives Matter movement and a lot of other nonprofits and things that were raising money on the heels of the George Floyd period there, where they were able to literally hire mercenaries and fly them over here to be a catalyst for destruction of this training center. And it wasn't about just stopping the building of a police academy. It was again always
a political movement.
It was
almost.
A political movement, and it was just meant to destabilize policing across the board in this country. It was just part of a bigger movement. Why Atlanta's training center, was one of several that are getting built throughout the country. Why ours became something, I don't know. But it's certainly
access to the airport.
Maybe.
I mean, it could be seriously. I mean, because it's so easy to get into Atlanta from anywhere you are in the world.
Yep.
World's busiest airports, the interstate system. There's a reason that transit is so big in the city of Atlanta because you can get here.
Yeah. And if you go
that's just my complete off the top of my head guess.
And that might that's as valid as any of the other ones I've heard out there. But if you look at the site itself, it started as, at least vocally people were saying, well, this is an environmental issue, right? And that was quickly kind of, put to the side. And then you were able to get to the core of what this really was. And this was just part of the bigger, broader defund the police movement. But the site itself, is being supported by the neighborhoods around it, right? So if you want to look at who's actually supporting this, go to the neighborhoods that are around there, the HOA representatives that are here advocating for this, that came to us and said, this is going to be a good thing for the neighborhood. We'd like it if we had this. We had a sidewalk around there. We said, let's build a sidewalk around there. We'd like it
and
if
the green space,
and
too.
the green space
Holy
is going to be
cow.
made available. So Mayor Dickens came in and it made a massive allocation of green space that'll be parks and trails and all of that. Be a massive city park out there, dedicated green space, and the 85 acres that we're building on is going to be just such a crucial piece to the city's public safety infrastructure. The benefits of this are going to go decades into the future.
We're talking to Chris McNiff, operational leader at the Atlanta Police Foundation. Let's talk about some of the other things that y'all do, like the Promise Centers, because I heard Daniel bring that up, like youth engagement in the Promise Centers. Why is it important, and what is a Promise Center?
The Promise Center, we started in 2017 with the first one on the west side. We've now got 3. We'll be breaking ground this month, actually, on the 4th one on MLK. And it's a diversion center for at-risk youth. I mean, that's just the most fundamental way to put it. We serve kids that are from 12 up to 24, recognizing, like Daniel was just speaking a moment ago about, is that the wraparound services that these kids need go well beyond just one service provider or another. Same thing with the recidivists, right? I mean, these folks need help in a lot of different areas to make sure that they can become a productive person. And that's what this whole concept is about. How do we bring these providers under one roof so that this kid or this young adult, can actually get in there and get all the help and services they need, from job training, from job placement to housing, emergency housing, to GED support, to clothing, to food, all of these things that, really put these folks in jeopardy. Now, some of them just made bad choices, right? And these Promise Centers are diversionary at the core, to where a police officer can perhaps be engaged with this youth and say, you know what, instead of taking you to jail, let's take you to the Promise Center. Let's get your parental support to say, let's divert this kid over there, get him or her the services that are necessary so that this kid can get off the path that he or she is leading down right now that's going to be destructive.
And I would assume this is 18 and under?
It's 12 to 24.
12 to 24.
Yeah.
Okay, I missed that somewhere.
Yeah.
So what about for kids that are younger than 12? I mean, is there a resource for parents for that?
We don't have those resources,
Okay.
But obviously,
but you're connected with people that
absolutely.
do.
Boys and Girls Club. The city of Atlanta has services. There's obviously you can't bite all of the apple in one bite.
No,
We've got to target those that are mostly at risk, and we think that 12 to 24 age group is really
Is the wheelhouse.
Is the wheelhouse, yeah.
What about above 24? Is there what happens? I mean, because obviously you're an adult there. You just go into the adult more adult services, which I know you support as well at a Second Chance, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, we try to cover the whole gamut, but I mean, as you know, all that stuff has its challenges.
Yeah, no
resources
question about it,
and things like that.
But it's partnerships like these, like the public and private. I guess are y'all technically a public entity, or are you
No,
a private?
we're private.
Entity?
Yep.
Private. So, but partnering with the Atlanta Police Department, which is a public entity, so back to public-private partnerships. Those seem like they could work out very well. And I know you're involved in helping out the foundation, so that's a great example of it.
Yeah, for myself, I have tried to, as we go through this journey and we keep expanding our footprint into other states and nationally, the Second Chance brand is to align with people like the Atlanta Police Foundation, find the best people to align with so we can put our dollars back into this type of stuff because it's something we believe in.
Greg, what about success stories, with some of the kids at Promise Centers that you're talking about? Do you have any examples that you could share with folks listening right now of things that have gone right?
Yeah, I mean, the secret sauce for us is that public-private partnerships, like Daniel was just talking about. I mean, the strength and the support of the business community out there, the philanthropic community, the church community, the faith community. There are so many groups out there that if you kind of bring them all under one roof, get the ship pointed in the right direction, you can do a lot. Now, Our job placement is great. We have about 90% of the kids that go through our job placement program are actually getting jobs. So you say, what happens to these kids after the age of 24? Well, our hope is by that point you've got a job, you've got employee assistance programs, you're on the straight and narrow, and you've got a support structure, whether it be at work, whether it be at home, or you've started a family, or whatever it might be. So that's kind of our goal right now. And so with graduation rates or job hiring rates about 90% is terrific. Our recidivism rate is about 5%. Nationally, if you look at these recidivism rates for kids, it's about 70 to 80%.
Wow.
In many cases, right?
So y'all are at 5, and the national average is 70
exactly.
to 80?
And it'll fluctuate from year to year. So we may go from 5 to 8% or something like that.
Still, that's a huge gap.
But like what Daniel was talking about there, it is these wraparound services that gives somebody that support structure in every weakness of their life, every area where they've got a problem right now. We've got a support partner that's under the roof of the At Promise Center or external, if necessary, that we can point these kids to.
Talking to Greg McNiff, operational leader at the Atlanta Police Foundation. When we come back, we're going to teach you about the 8 pillars of the foundation. This is Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3 with my co-host Daniel Madelon, CEO of A Second Chance Bail Bonds and A Second Chance Monitoring, and we will be right back.
This morning in the Atlanta airport, no one's missing a meal on Mac Wilburn's watch. With 11 restaurants to serve passengers, he's got dining for every destination. And it all started when Mac talked with First Horizon Bank about opening a franchise in the airport. Now it's open for business and cleared for takeoff. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Mac. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.
Atlanta's favorite jewelry special is back. For the whole month of August, get 0% APR financing for 5 years only at D. Geller & Son. Planning a fall proposal and don't want to compromise on the ring of her dreams? 0% APR for 5 years means more time to pay for a bigger, brighter diamond and the affordability to set it in timeless, durable platinum. It's only this month and only at D. Geller & Son, Atlanta's most trusted jeweler since 1939. In Atlanta, Kennesaw, and Sandy Springs, and online at dgeller.com.
Extra 106.3 and A Second Chance Bail Bonds are here to back your blue. Now back to the show on Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station, Extra 106.3.
Welcome back to Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3. My name is Doug Cowart with my co-host Daniel Madelon of A Second Chance Bail Bonds and A Second Chance Monitoring. And I understand you're going to be a judge soon.
No, I think that's you're the judge. I'm your assistant.
That's exactly right. We're going to start doing some legal work and some lawyering shows. If you would have heard us between the breaks, you would know exactly what I'm talking about. I do so many of these shows that sometimes they run together, and the names, I will jumble them up. I called this Your Day in Court, which is a show that I do with lawyers talking about the legal system, and that's, of course, Bruce Hagen and Ray Giudice, which do a great job, and I love those guys. But not today. We're talking to Greg McNiff, the operational leader at the Atlanta Police Foundation. So before we get to the 8 pillars of the foundation, do you want to help people understand, and I know we touched on it a little bit, help people understand the difference in the Atlanta Police Foundation and in the Atlanta Police Department?
Well, the obvious is obviously they're the tip of the spear, right? In terms of law enforcement, right? They're doing their publicly, they're legislative created. They're a public agency. We're a private agency, and what we ultimately do is bring the private sector, this philanthropic, all the private support structure. We bring that to the table to help the police department.
But they don't run.
They don't run. No, and ultimately we don't dictate what they do. We don't dictate.
Great point.
Yeah, any of that. We work with them to ultimately achieve a common policing strategy, and that's where the foundation CEO Dave Wilkinson will sit down with Chief Shearbaum, will sit down with Mayor Dickens, and ultimately say, here's the strategy that we need to accomplish. What is the mechanism for getting there? And then, okay, police, you're going to go out and do your thing, and foundation, what can you bring to the table? And Mayor Dickens, what on the city side can you do to help us get there? So ultimately, we're all pointed in the same direction. We all want to have a safe city. We want to make sure we have good trained police officers. We're just going to be kind of that conduit for the support structure coming from the private side to make sure that it can actually get to the police department.
There you go, man. A safe city. Imagine that. That's what people want, is to live in a safe city. That's why it's so important to support our police officers and support the Atlanta Police Foundation. Support people that are doing good and hard work and honest work in your community to make it a better place. And I know that the last 4 or 5 years, it's been topsy-turvy, and I think we've kind of turned the corner, and I hope we've turned the corner and are headed in the right direction when it comes to that. Let's talk about the 8 pillars of the Atlanta Police Foundation. So what is that? Where did it come from, and how do you implement it?
Well, we do our fundraising and 3-year campaign. So we're currently in the Public Safety First campaign. We're at the tail end of this campaign. So in 20, we may push it. It'll start in 25 or 26. Our next campaign, we'll sit down with the mayor's office. We'll sit down with the police chief, and we'll come up with a new campaign strategy to say, what are we trying to achieve over the next 3 years? We'll fundraise to support that strategy and ultimately, achieve the outcomes that we lay out on paper. The 8 pillars that you're referring to is the 8 pillars of this current campaign, and that's. There's no way I'm going to remember all of them. I'm a former cop, but it's more policing, right? It's more technology. It's more it's dealing with repeat offenders. It's youth initiatives. So there are 8 pillars that we focus this campaign on, and we're trying to deliver on those now in the tail run for this campaign. And we've already talked about the recidivist and the youth engagement and all of that. We obviously need to continue to grow the police department. They're down about 500 police officers from where they should be right now, and so a lot of our efforts right now are focused on retention, recruiting, and thinking of other ways that how we can support the police department to make it more attractive for people to come sign up to be an Atlanta police officer.
What are some of the methods you're doing that? Because 500 police officers, I mean, that's a pretty big hit.
It's a big lift, and it's this is not unique to Atlanta right now.
No, of course not.
Yeah, the entire country's dealing with this. What we're doing right now is obviously focus all our eggs. I don't want to say all in one basket, but the big basket is the training center, right? And we're looking at it not just because there's a current need for the current police officers, but if you think about UGA or University of Alabama or something, why do a lot of these recruits, these top star athletes want to go there? They got a great facility, right? They know they're going to be created or trained to be a great police officer, and that's ultimately the primary goal. If you ask us, what is the purpose for building this training center, and that's to recruit talent, so we can get up to 500 till we make sure we have great police officers out there doing great things. So that's the primary thing we're focused on right now, and obviously that's a big lift. But we also all the hiring bonuses for the Atlanta police officers. They have a $4,000 hiring bonus that comes from the Police Foundation. Yeah. So that's philanthropic money and business money that's put to recruit new talent, and we do that and other things. We have the Atlanta Police Leadership Institute. So make sure that as police officers go through the ranks that they're properly trained in leadership. A core component of any policing initiative is the Police Leadership Institute, and we fund that, right? And we ultimately make sure that police officers, as they go up through the ranks, they're trained as leaders. So that's a critical component. And then we have scholarship opportunities, so these officers can go get a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. So a lot of the steps that a police officer takes over his or her career to become better at what they're doing or just become a better, well-rounded person are funded through the Atlanta Police Foundation. All of these things geared at keeping them on the department, keeping them in the city of Atlanta, and making them just happy and good employees.
Are you getting in front of young folks at like the high school level? Maybe let's say it's because we see people going to college and they'll study some random topic that's not going to have them a job when they get done. I think technical schools right now are really important, and kids are going to be linemen and welders and plumber and HVAC and all that stuff. There'll always be a job for them. Policing is the same way. There is always going to be a need. Are y'all getting in front of younger folks, that maybe want to go to college and they can't afford to do it now? They're looking for a career. They're graduating school or whatever it is, but it presents an opportunity for the police department, I would imagine.
100%. And we just started, thankfully, we won a planning grant through AmeriCorps, and we're doing a planning program right now to create basically a funnel from the At Promise centers to take these kids that have been diverted into there, maybe at 12 years old, and now they've reached the age where they can become a police officer, and what does that training look like? So we're in the process right now. We're hoping to launch that program in about a year's time. And right now it's just a matter of saying what does the structure look like? We have to obviously introduce them to what policing looks like, but there's so much more. There's the legal elements to it. There's the community support elements to that. So we want to have these kids, if they're going to take that track, to be well-rounded, that if they do choose ultimately to become a police officer here in Atlanta, that they've got a very holistic look at what it means to be. And it's from community, it is giving back, and it is obviously being a well-rounded police officer.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Is there anything we've left out as we get ready to close out? Is there anything that you want to make sure that we cover that we haven't?
I would just say that, the foundation, our foundation, other foundations, it's a mechanism for allowing people, individual citizens to be, if they say, how do I get involved? Well, you can get involved directly at an At Promise Center. You can get directly involved.
Like volunteering?
Volunteering as a giving in any way, shape, or form. The Less Crime Act is another great thing. It was passed about a year and a half ago, and it allows people who are already going to be paying their tax burden to the state of Georgia, you can earmark it to go to your local law enforcement.
Oh, wow.
So that's something that I think folks can look into. If you're going to pay the money to state anyway,
you
can
as well
earmark it for law enforcement. So that's a way to get to give back. We've got a board of great leaders, business leaders around here. That's another way to get become part of something. But there are ways that folks can say, well, how do I get involved and how do I help policing? Well, a foundation's a conduit to that, and we're happy to take all the support and the philanthropic help that we can do that, direct that directly at the police department, and direct it at the initiatives and programs that we focus on to make sure that, again, we're just trying to make a safer city here.
Great opportunities, Daniel, for so many folks to get involved and give back to the city and to the people that protect the city. And I know you've done that too, and we certainly encourage everybody else to as well.
Yep, whatever you can do.
Anything you can do. Greg McNiff, the operational leader at the Atlanta Police Foundation. Man, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you coming in and helping people understand the importance of what y'all do and why you're doing it, man. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Any support for law enforcement right now is needed, and we appreciate everybody. Thank you.
There you go. This is Back Your Blue on Extra 106.3. Y'all make it a great day.
This is an Extra 106.3 podcast. To hear more live and local content like this, tune into 106.3 FM or download the Extra 106.3 app.
This is Jonathan Geller at D. Geller & Son Jewelers, Atlanta's engagement ring and wedding band destination since 1939. Why? Hand-picked diamonds that just shine brighter at a value that can't be beat. An unbelievable selection of engagement rings and wedding bands, and because we've been jewelers for generations, we can bring your dream ring to life with full custom abilities. So when it's time for the next chapter, come see Atlanta's most trusted jeweler since 1939, D. Geller & Son.
And right now at D. Geller & Son, get 0% APR financing for 5 years.
A lifetime of hard work, children laughing in the kitchen, family photos on a restaurant wall, a legacy that lives on. It all comes from the power of a conversation, like the one Tommy Hall had with First Horizon Bank about taking over his father's Charleston-based restaurant business. Now the table is set for a whole new generation. First Horizon Bank. Let's find a way. Go to firsthorizon.com/Tommy. First Horizon Bank, member FDIC.
Is there chaos in your closet?
Look, Blouse, you've got some nerve hanging there like that.
I can't help it. I'm jammed in here next to this suit.
Hey, I'm a three-piece, all right, which means I need a little more room.
You've got a lot of attitude for a linen suit.
I'm a polyester blend, sweetheart, and there needs to be room for men's clothes, too.
Hi, I'm Christina, and at Artisan Custom Closets, we help families organize and simplify their closets with customized storage solutions. See what's possible for your home at artisancustomclosets.com, and then call us for a free in-home consultation.